back, listeners and viewers, to another week of Education, the Teachers Talking Terror podcast, where myself, Mike,
and myself, Courtney,
are back to cover just, again, one movie this week. We had a couple of technical glitches there just a moment ago, so we had to start over. But with October gone, we're just back to doing one movie a week, and it's so awesome.
Yes, it has felt. It's been a relief.
Yeah, it's like I enjoy it. I enjoy
I do.
It's back to the enjoyment of I'm going to watch this movie. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed a lot of what we did watch, but knowing that I only have to do one this week, it's been really, really nice. And speaking of that one this week, what did you bring to us?
Yeah, this was my pick. So 1992's, honestly, like 5 days ago, it came out in 92.
Right.
Bram Stoker's Dracula. And this is like, I think I mentioned it last week on show, like, this is my first real, like, Dracula movie. I've seen some vampire ones.
Right.
But this was my first Dracula one, and I really liked it.
Yeah, it's a solid pick. Francis Ford Coppola, the director of this movie, is one of the, like, greatest filmmakers of all time. He made the Godfather movies. Like, he's just very, very good at his craft. And the fact that this movie just feels like an entirely different time. Like, it came out in 92, but like just the attention to set design, it's just an absolutely gorgeous movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a very fitting introduction to the Dracula story.
Yes.
You know, Dracula being obviously the most famous vampire of all time, often synonymous with vampires. You know, you'll ask a kid what they're dressed up for Halloween, and they'll say Dracula when no, you're not. You're just a vampire.
Yeah.
And so it's all well and good, but this movie kind of star-studded at the time. Gary Oldman as Dracula. We got Winona Ryder and Anthony Hopkins and Keanu Reeves, and but it's just the storytelling ability of Francis Ford Coppola and the like design choices he was taking, and it just works. I really like this movie, and I think I like it a little bit more every time I watch it.
Yeah, it was definitely very good. Like you had said, the attention to detail. So Dracula.
So you don't know, you really don't know anything of the Dracula story prior to this movie?
No,
really?
Nothing.
Okay.
Nope.
Do you see what I mean when I mentioned last week that it's just a very romantic movie?
Yes, but I'm that kid that's like, oh, you're Dracula. You know, when a kid's dressed up as a vampire, like that's but it's, and of course the Dracula that people claim they are they're like the 1931 Bela Lugosi, like cape over my eyes. That's like the Dracula. Your Universal monster movie from 73 years ago, which is just insane to think it's been that long that we've been pumping movies out there. But this story really is just a very romantic story. About lost love and finding a replacement for lost love, and only Dracula has the power to make people into what he wants them to be. So you hope that heart wins, because he's gonna win if he wants to. So, but what's this movie about? Yeah, so Dracula comes back to find that his wife has killed herself.
How long ago? What's the time span of this film?
1462 is when he had come back.
Right.
And then we've got like 400 years later.
Yeah, like 1400s, mid 1400s is when like Vlad the Impaler, like Dracula, that's like Dracula's like his last name. Yeah. That's when he was alive. Like, he was a legit dude. And so I always say it because when we're dealing with vampires do come back. Right. True. But he's not a vampire yet. Yes. He's just a soldier. Yeah. A very good soldier. Like, why send an army in when you just have Vlad?
Right. Yeah.
Just send Vlad. He'll get it done. But yeah, he comes back from battle and finds that
Elizabeta, his wife, has committed suicide.
Because she heard that he died.
Yeah, oldest trick in the book. Like, the enemy is like, hey, you know that super soldier husband of yours? Yeah, he died. Oh, woe is me. Let me leap from the top of my mile-high castle.
So he was told, like, your wife will be damned to hell because of what she did.
Yeah, suicide's wrong.
Yeah, so he just, like, renounced, like, went against God, and he made this statement that he's coming back and he's going to avenge his wife and him, and he'll go to the dark side.
Yeah, and like they're very symbolic of him driving his sword into a stone cross, forcing it to bleed.
Yeah.
In which, of course, vampires drink blood, so he drinks that blood. Now he's vampiric.
Yes, and then we flash forward
like 500 years, 400 years.
Like late 1800s now.
Yeah.
And we've got Jonathan
Harker.
Yes. And he is on a mission to head to
Transylvania.
Yeah.
That's where Dracula's from, Transylvania.
Yeah, that's right, Transylvania.
Because Dracula now in his old age, he's just a real estate mogul. Like,
right, yeah, and he just wants to buy some properties.
He's buying up all this
Mr.
property
Harker.
and all this property in London.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and he kind of like.
Well, what happened? The way Harker gets involved is we've got Renfield.
Yes.
Renfield is a colleague of Harker. Renfield was working for Dracula.
Yes.
Okay? It's tough to follow the Renfield plotline here.
Yeah.
Renfield and Harker were colleagues. Renfield, he had Dracula's case, like he was his client. And in the workings with Dracula, it drove him insane to where now he's my master. I must provide for my master. So that's where this Harker connection comes in.
Yes.
Because Renfield had the big Dracula case, and then he went insane. Well, we can't lose the account, so we have to give it to somebody. So they give it to Harker. So Harker is Renfield's replacement, and now it's kind of foreshadowing because we see what could happen to you if you are around Dracula too much, because we're seeing it in Renfield.
Yes. Yeah. So Harker heads to Transylvania to answer some questions about the London properties. And
I love this scene when Harker gets there and it's just Keanu Reeves and Gary Oldman.
Yeah.
And Gary Oldman is so great as Dracula in this movie.
And I like how he's just like, forgive me, like I'm not eating with you.
Yeah,
and
I don't drink wine. Yeah.
And
so many like cheap, but these are all legit lines from the novel. Like these aren't just written, these are very Dracula like mythos lines. You read the novel. These are all there. These
are some of the sayings that are in that pinball game.
Yeah.
I'll have to find I'll have to go listen to the pinball game again. But yeah, so Harker ends up having to, like, Dracula's like, I want you to stay with me for a month.
Well, originally I keep feel like I'm cutting you off here, and I'm sorry.
No, you're fine, because I'm skipping things, I know.
Well, he's not... Originally, he wasn't going to keep him, but he saw Harker had a picture of his fiancée, Mina.
Yes, of Mina. And he thought, like, that's Elizabeta, like, she's come back. I have to keep you.
Right. So, now it's, you need to stay here so that you're out of the way.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what? I'm a married man, happily married, but not a bad trade-off. Like,
no.
You want Winona Ryder or the Brides of Dracula?
Right, like there's multiple of them. Right. So he ends up staying there. He's writing letters telling them, like, I'll be staying there. And then we head back to London.
Yeah. Because Dracula, one of the properties that he just bought, Carfax Abbey, is now his. Well, here's another like story of Dracula fact. Dracula, his homeland is Transylvania.
So the reason why we see him a couple of different times in transit where he's like in a casket surrounded by dirt is Dracula can't leave Transylvania without the land of Transylvania with him, which is why when he's transporting via ship, he's covered in dirt because that is Transylvanian land.
Okay. Did that explain that in this movie?
No.
Okay, I was going to say, I completely missed that.
No, it didn't. But that's just one of those that, like, if you know, you know.
Okay.
But that's why, like, whenever you see him in his casket, especially outside of Transylvania, you see him you see it on the ship on the way to London. You see it on the ship on the way back to Transylvania near the end of the movie. He's always got dirt in his casket because that's the land that's where he gets his strength from.
Got you. Okay. So he heads back and he bites Mina's best friend Lucy.
Yeah. Well, as a way to get to Mina.
Yes.
Like he sees Mina first and she brushes him off.
Mm-hmm.
Like, cause she's engaged and open about it. But yeah, he does get to Lucy, which Lucy in a way is like the inverse of what Jonathan Harker's dealing with. Yeah. Jonathan is like this pure, devoted man who's surrounded by these three just gorgeous women that are after him. Lucy is this young, gorgeous woman who's surrounded by these three innocent men that are after her.
And she's just like, I'll entertain all of you. Like, who can, you know?
It's so weird. Like, but yeah, so he goes after Lucy as for two reasons. One, because he needs blood to keep his strength. And two, that's the nearest point to Mina. Yes. If I can turn Lucy, then I have somebody that can help me manipulate Mina.
Yes. And Mina is staying with Lucy while her fiance is in Transylvania, so they're together all the time.
Yeah.
And so Lucy's health just starts to go downhill. Like she starts just having these like changes in her.
Well, she's dying. Like that's what happens when a and I've never understood this about vampires. How sometimes they can feed off of you and you die, and sometimes they feed off of you and you turn into a vampire.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about vampires to know, like, is it just a decision?
Like, did you bite the wrong spot?
Right, exactly. Like what? Now, sometimes they just completely like destroy you and you have nothing left to turn.
Right, like on Twilight.
But I've never understood. Twilight, the most accurate vampire movie. But I don't know, like, what is. Yeah, I guess if you know, comment down below. We don't normally, get people to comment, but if you're listening thus far and you know what is it about vampire mythology, how can some of them turn and some of them just die? Yeah. Leave it below because we want to learn.
Please. So she's got these three guys that we had mentioned, like they're all just like very concerned about her. And she did accept a proposal from one of them, Arthur.
Well, we have another bit of connection here because you got Quincy, Dr. Seward, and Arthur. Mm-hmm. Now, Dr. Seward runs the asylum that Renfield is at.
Yes.
So there's this other little bit of connection between what's going on with Lucy and what's going on with Renfield and Harker. Like, it's just, there's really no outsiders to this story.
Yeah. And so Arthur, her fiance, he brings in Van Helsing, Dr. Abraham Van Helsing.
Yeah.
And
who again is connected to Seward. He was Seward's mentor.
He notices like that her neck, like she's been bit by a vampire.
Yeah, like right away.
And
yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, just Anthony Hopkins. I really like him as an actor, but man, I think he took the challenge for this one of, you know what? I'm going to chew just as much scenery as Dracula is going to chew next because, like, whenever he's on screen, Anthony Hopkins is giving it his A+ effort.
Oh yeah,
he's PE All-Star in this one.
And so meanwhile, Dracula is like shapeshifted type, and he's just trying to charm Mina. She starts to develop feelings for him. Like,
because Harker's gone. She's not heard from him, despite him writing letters to her.
none of those letters get to her. Right. And eventually Harker realizes none of these letters are getting to where they need to go.
And so she's like going on trips with him, just, you know, having these little outings. And finally she does hear from Harker. Because he escapes.
He pulls an Elizabeta and just jumps out of the... Yeah. Luckily, though, he landed in the water and he was fine.
Right. And she goes... I don't remember. Doesn't Lucy kind of encourage her to go?
Yeah, because
she finally... marry him now.
She gets a letter. She gets a letter from the convent that is helping him recuperate. And he's basically like, you know, because... Harker doesn't know all the details, but he's figured out there's something amiss here, and Dracula's involved. The way he reacted to you need to come to Romania now and marry me. Like, I don't want to wait any longer. Let's get this done. I bet he doesn't tell her that he's not a virgin anymore.
Right, yeah.
Because at one point, Mina and Lucy are talking, and of course, Lucy's thrown herself at every guy with two legs. And Mina's like, well, Jonathan, we've kissed, and that's it. And Lucy's like, girl, like, that's it?
Kissed? Yeah.
So when Jonathan is like, you come to Romania, let's get married, Mina's telling Lucy, and Lucy's like, you gotta go. Like, because there's still enough human in Mina. Mm-hmm. And this is the struggle of someone when they're turning into a vampire. There's so many movies out there of a person's transformation from human to vampire and all the differences that they encounter. There's so many movies that deal with it. Near Dark, first by even Martin to a degree, even though he wasn't a real vampire. But and so you got to go. Like, that's your one true love. You've got to go. Yeah. So he does, or she does.
She heads there,
and Dracula's ticked.
Yeah.
So he this is where he just fully transforms Lucy now.
Yeah, like, she's straight vampire now.
Yeah, no more will I, won't I? It's no, you're coming to the dark side.
You're now a vampire. And we get Van Helsing and the fiance,
and the guys,
yeah, they killed Lucy like that night.
Yeah, because Van Helsing sniffed it out, like you said earlier. She's the undead. Like, we've got to keep tabs on her. Of course, these other three guys love her.
Yeah, they
all love her equally. And so they're a little hesitant, but he's like, no, like, if you love her, you've got to do this.
Yeah.
You've got to release her soul. Mm-hmm. You know, and I want to chop her head off. Like, he's so blasé about, like, just drive a stake through her heart. I'll chop her head off and we'll be fine.
And you're good.
And he's not wrong. Like, that's what they do. And Lucy is no longer.
So
I will say, though, Lucy was a pretty sweet vampire. All pasty white. Yeah. Like, they do this whole, like, we'll film you crawling out of your crypt and then play it in reverse. Mm-hmm. Spitting blood all over the place. Like, they get down to her tomb and she's not in her tomb. And they're like, where is she? And then she's coming down the stairs with, like, a small child. Yeah. Like, she was going to feast on this kid. Mm-hmm. And so they saved this kid's life. That was potentially gruesome there. So,
so Jonathan and Mina return, and Van Helsing leads them to the Carfax place,
right?
And they get rid of all of the boxes of soil, like you had mentioned earlier,
right?
And Dracula comes in, and he kills the Dr. Renfield,
the patient. He goes to the asylum,
not the doctor, but the patient.
Because
Renfield warned Mina, like, Dracula's here.
Yeah. And so Dracula didn't take too kindly to that.
No. So they head to Mina then discovers that Dracula had turned Lucy, and they talk about how they had murdered her.
Right.
And she was angry with him, but she's still like, I love you.
Right. Well, because I get Jonathan, and to be fair, Jonathan is about as human as a cardboard box in this film. Yeah. And so this is someone who's shown her a good time, shown her affection, respected her boundaries to a point. Like, there was the time at the movies where it's like he took her to a porn movie. Yeah. But he respected her enough not to turn her. And so it's like, but he's shown her romantic interest that she's not gotten before.
Yes. And he just like remembers Elisabetta and starts to like turn Mina.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Until you've got the people burst in and he takes Mina as his.
Yeah. She's mine now.
Yeah.
Because he's waited, as he says earlier in the movie, like, I've traveled the waves of time or something like that. You know, like he's waited 400 years for her.
Yeah.
And granted, it's not her, but it's enough. It's her enough for him. Like
thinks is her.
You look like her, and that alone is good enough for me.
Yep. And Mina changes into a vampire. Van Helsing gets a hold of her and like hypnotizes her back.
Right. Yeah.
They realize they didn't get rid of all the boxes because he's heading home.
And again, he needs his strength. So I'm out of here. Peace out, London.
Mm-hmm. We've got another clip here where the Dracula's brides are like approaching like Van Helsing and Mina.
Yeah.
And,
and he, because they're like out in the wild, like it's a race now. It's a race where Dracula has to take the ship back to Transylvania. So he's got to sail a lot further than they have to ride on land. And so it's a race. Can the men get to his castle before he gets there? Yes. And then, like you said, they get close. And this, like you said, the brides they not attack, but they come on to Van Helsing out at his camp, and he protects himself, but they take out his horse.
Yeah. And, Mina like falls to it. Like she, like goes, it's like the Odyssey, like she heads to their chanting and takes, kind of becomes them.
Well, it's because Van Helsing's got Mina.
Yeah.
Like the men, they're, like I said, the hunters head off to cut Dracula off, but Van Helsing's like, leave Mina with me, she's fine.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like this is where it's like super vampire-y, like he puts the ring of fire around them.
Right.
To protect them, and then Dracula arrives.
Yeah. Yeah, Van Helsing, he knows his stuff. He's fought off a lot of vampires in this movie, including Mina, who was like, she's trying to seduce him, and of course he kind of leans into it a little bit, and then kind of, what am I doing? Dracula, we get this just a cool chase scene. Like there's like Romani barbarians they're helping Dracula get to his castle. Just I really like this scene where they get to the castle, Mina opens the gates, Dracula and the Romanis get in, the hunters also get in. Their goal is we've got to kill Dracula before he gets back to full strength. As they keep cutting to the sun setting over the clouds and the light, and it's like just as they like cut the ropes to Dracula's box, it finishes like it ends getting any sunlight, and he just explodes out of this box, ready to fight. Didn't work. Jonathan cuts his throat, and then one of the Morris, it doesn't matter who they are, he comes running up with his like Bowie knife and stabs, and so it's like, aha, we got him. Like we slit his throat, we stabbed him in the heart, like he's dead. We've got him. Mina is still like completely under his spell though. Yeah. And so she even yells at Jonathan, are you going to do the same to me when it's my time? Are you going to chop my head off when it's time? And so that's when Jonathan's like, you know what? We've done our part. Now it's up to her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they shared like a last kiss as he was dying.
And we've gone full circle because we're back now. Yes, we're back in the same chapel from 400 years ago,
where he was cursing God for the death of his wife. He now is dying there with his new quote unquote wife, and the cross, like as they're kissing, the cross just goes back to normal. Dracula goes back to his younger self, where she'd had a mark on her head, it disappears. And I don't want to say things go back to normal, but
she's released from his curse. Yeah, like his hold over her is gone.
Takes off his head.
Yeah, she stabs him in the heart and then cuts his head off.
Yeah, and we get this where they just Elisabetta and Dracula / Vlad.
Right.
Just they're back together.
Yeah, they're together in all eternity.
It's a happy ending.
It is for a grim movie.
Yeah.
The original novel of Dracula by Bram Stoker is last. I think I'm 98% sure. It's written entirely in letters.
Okay.
And I mean written letters, not isn't every book written in letters?
Right, yeah. Of them writing to each other.
Yeah. But the entire novel is letters back and forth of what's happening, which is kind of a cool premise.
That's neat.
If you're cool with it, obviously some of the action gets filled in the blanks because if you're not there to write the letters as it's happening. But I really like this movie.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
What would you grade it?
I'm going to give it an A.
Yeah, I'm also going to give it an A. There are weak parts of this, but there's weak parts of every movie.
Right. Yeah.
But the gothic feel of this film, I mentioned earlier, the attention to detail, just the performances overall. I don't think this movie works as well as it does if it isn't for Gary Oldman as Dracula. Winona Ryder was okay. I like her, but she's not the greatest actress.
Right.
Keanu Reeves is not the greatest actor in this. They're both kind of wooden. I think they're supposed to be. Yeah. I think they're supposed to be naive and just kind of dumb. Anthony Hopkins says, "Hey, I see your lack of acting. I'll make up for it." He tries a little too hard, but
I'll do it and do it again.
Right. But Gary Oldman, to me, is one of the greatest actors out there. He's one of those that can really get lost in a role. You give it to him, and he's going to knock it out of the park. And to just you probably haven't seen a lot of Gary Oldman films, but you look at some of his. Even if you could probably YouTube Gary Oldman performances and just watch it and be like, that's the same guy. Yeah. And this isn't the same way Johnny Depp was doing all these roles. This is you could still watch those and be like, yeah, I see that it's Johnny Depp. But Gary Oldman, you watch it and you're like, wow, this, The Professional, the Batman movies, True Romance. There's a lot of these real lesser roles that he's done where you tell him what he needs to do and he does it. And it's just great. So A for me, A for you as well.
Oh, he was Sirius Black in Harry Potter.
Yeah, Sirius Black in Harry Potter as well, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Do you see what I mean? You're oh wait, same guy? Yeah, same guy. You just lose him in the role.
Right, Planet of the Apes, I'm a big fan of those movies. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Gary Oldman, excellent actor. I've not seen anything where I'm disappointed in what he's done. He's got a large before he was really in Hollywood, he was big on the stage.
Okay.
And so but he's done a lot of stuff. He's very, very good. I really, really like Gary Oldman. If you could, what character? Let's just switch it up a little bit here. Not what character do you identify with, but if you had to switch role, if you had to switch places with one of the characters in this movie. Now you're a little limited because there's only 2 women, but which character
I can switch with a guy, can't I?
Yeah, of course you can. That's why I'm saying you can. But what role would you switch with that you think like, I wish I were that person in this movie?
And we have to keep it PG?
No.
Okay, I would switch with Lucy. And I've just never been one to throw myself at guys. So you know what? In an alternate universe,
yeah, that's
I'm
fair.
throwing myself at guys. Like, I'm going to be that hot redhead that's just like, look at me, you have 2 legs. Come over.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. You know, I was thinking the same thing, not with Lucy, but like, I'd probably go Jonathan Harker. Yeah. Of it's like, all around too, because I feel I have a conscience. Me and my persona right now, I wouldn't let happen to me what he let happen to him. Yes. But all strings severed. Yeah, I don't know if I would have jumped out of that building.
Exactly.
I'd have been like, I think I'm okay.
When the naked woman is rising up from the bed next to me.
Yeah.
And she's just perfect in every way. Like, you know, I mean, society's whatever. She's just perfect in every way coming up naked. I'd be like, all right, it is what it is.
That's like, this is kind of hot. Like, yeah. I didn't even order it. And it's right there.
The satin sheets have opened and yeah.
So that's kind of gross of the two of us. Which one would you go? I'd go with the one getting it.
Right. Yeah. Like,
fair enough.
The one that's the most opposite of
exactly.
Of myself.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a movie.
To be fair, like everybody else is like, yeah.
If they had a pick, come on.
They would.
Other people would. Yeah.
Yeah. Put that chastity aside. You guys would have taken the one where you just have where people are throwing themselves at you.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's not kid ourselves.
Right.
All right. So my pick next week. Right.
Yes.
Is that what we decided? I have picked a film that came out earlier this year. It is a 2024 film. It's an Irish horror film, but it's in English that I'm familiar with. It's called Oddity. I know nothing about this film. I take that back. I know a little bit about this film. It was covered on a podcast that I listened to called Werewolf Ambulance. Katie and Alan do an amazing job over there. Maybe if we keep blowing their horns, we could reach out to them and they'll be guests on the show sometime. No, Katie and Alan do a great job. They've been doing their friendship horror movie podcast for like 10 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, they're like closing in on episode 500, and they're still tackling horror films. They have a much larger audience than we have, but they covered this one not too long ago, and I was listening. I was like, you know what? I've not heard of that one. I think I want to watch it. And so that's my pick for next week is we're going to be talking about 2024's Oddity. Tight little 98 minutes. And so that's nice because Dracula I felt it went quickly, but it was still over 2 hours long.
Yeah. When I first clicked that, I was like, huh,
yeah.
What?
But yeah, this movie, it follows a blind lady who is grieving the death of her twin sister when a wooden mannequin from her collection becomes very important to uncovering the truth. So Oddity. They on Werewolf Ambulance, they really, really liked it. They both found it very scary. And so that's something I don't think we've covered in a bit, is something that actually like creeps us out. So
yeah, I mean,
we will be covering Oddity for next week. Social media wise, you guys could find us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm dropping Twitter from our carriage here. Okay. One, we got no traffic from it. Two, I don't know.
I feel like since it turned into X, like it's just a dying thing.
Well, that, and it's become too much of a political machine.
Yes.
For those in charge. And it's like, I don't want our show to feed into that algorithm. Mm-hmm. So Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok is where you guys can find us. Still throwing around the idea of building a website, but I haven't gotten there yet. I've got a lot. I feel like every time I feel like I've cleaned part of my plate, someone else slops another helping on there. So maybe someday soon we'll get to that. You got any parting words before we take off?
Nope. Have a great week. Enjoy all of this rain.
I know it's been a lot of rain. We've got a tentative schedule. We've got a tree we want taken down before the winter hits, and we've got it approved. I mean, the guy's like, let's do it when the ground hardens up. So that's what we're waiting for. the ground to harden up enough to cut a tree down. So I feel like we get a few days of dry and then rain. So, oh well, it'll happen when it's supposed to. For another episode of Education, I'm Mike.
And I'm Courtney.
And we'll see you guys next week with Oddity.
Bye.